They have faith and they're fed up. This election season, hundreds of pastors will be on the ballot, hoping to bring God back to government.
They're running for school boards, the state senate, and seats in Congress. And as David Brody reports, they're all trying to get America back on the right track.
Move over, Donald Trump. It's time to set another place at the table for a different kind of political outsider, your friendly neighborhood pastor.
Take Southern California, for example. You know, it's pretty easy to get complacent out here. Great beaches, great weather, pretty laid-back atmosphere. But there's one pastor here who has said enough is enough. It is time to enter the political realm.
Calvary Chapel's Rob McCoy took the plunge by running for city council in Thousand Oaks, California.
I'm in exile in my own state and in my own nation. And this is a directive that God gave me, praying for the peace of the city locally.
McCoy joins more than 200 pastors who jumped into politics this year alone. A couple hundred others plan to join the ranks in the next couple years, and hundreds more are praying about their next step. They're popping up all over the country, from local school boards up on through Congress. Charlotte pastor Mark Harris is running for Congress in North Carolina. Others, like Oklahoma pastor Paul Blair, are starting at the state level. Many of them are seeking help to get started.
I'm going to give you a real quick run through of what we call Campaigns 101.
The American Renewal Project holds Issachar training sessions across the country. In the Old Testament, the men of Issachar understood the serious times they lived in and took action for Israel.
I want you to know that it doesn't take experience, it doesn't take qualifications. God will call you, and if you are called, he will qualify you.
And in this world of transgender bathrooms and gay marriage, pastors are encouraged to make a difference, especially at the local level where many of these fights begin.
Do you think that if people on your deacon board or your pastoral board were serving on the school board, you'd be discussing same-sex bathrooms?
Pastors looking for advice can call on U.S. Senator James Lankford. The Oklahoma senator spent 15 years in the Southern Baptist ministry before running for Congress. Lankford tells CBN News he's excited about the current movement.
While some people try to paint it as something extraordinary, it's not. It's actually a very normal American thing for people that love our country and that also love God and love other people to get engaged in the political process. I'm excited it's happening. It seems to be a conversation that's bubbling up around the country.
What also may bubble up is an army of Christians moving from the pews to join their leader. Hundreds of volunteers from Pastor McCoy's church helped him almost win a state assembly seat. He believes the time for sitting on the sidelines is over. He points his congregation to the story of Shema in the Bible. His job? Defend a small lentil bean patch against the Philistines.
You can change the city council, you can change your school board, you can make a difference right where you are. You can affect your schools, you can affect your sports teams. You have the ability to affect your Kiwanis and your Rotary. Change your bean patch, quit whining.
McCoy says the ultimate goal is to rebuild the foundation of America along the lines of Psalm 11:3.
The answer to the question that the psalmist asks, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? It's very simple. Rebuild the foundation.
It appears pastors are ready to lead the effort one brick at a time.
I'm 51 years old. I've been ministering for over 25 years. I've never done anything harder in all my life than run for office. It's tough, but you got to do it.
David Brody, CBN News, in Thousand Oaks, California.
Now, keep in mind, this is nothing new in American history. Back in the American Revolution, pastors led the way, and their cry was, "No king but Jesus." And here we are in 2016, pastors once again responding to the call to say, yes, you can count on me. Now, don't be a Pollyanna with this. Politics in America has turned into a blood sport. It is absolutely brutal to go through a campaign these days. But let's encourage them, and let's take that rallying cry. Can we get involved? Can we defend our own little bean patch? Well, in other news, massive flooding in Texas has claimed the lives of 5 U.S. soldiers. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington.
That's right, Gordon. The torrential rainfall is still overwhelming rivers in the Lone Star State. At least 3 feet have fallen in eastern Texas in the last 60 days, producing massive and deadly flooding that even wiped out a U.S. troop carrier. And more rain is coming this weekend. It is a similar story in Europe where at least 14 are dead, and officials have even closed the Louvre in Paris after days of flooding. Ephraim Graham has more on this historic weather.
Some Texas residents are watching and waiting as nonstop rain falls and floods.
1 inch marks on it, and it's the same as it was last night when I went to sleep.
Kyle Littman is in Fort Bend, one of 31 counties where the Texas governor has declared a state of disaster, as more torrential rains are expected this weekend. The slow-moving storm system has already dumped more than 20 inches of rain in some areas in just the last week.
The most important thing we can do right now is to protect the lives of everybody. The person who has the best control over that is you, the individual. Understand that for the next at least 1 to 2 days, there will be challenges with water.
The wet weather has already been deadly. At least 5 soldiers were killed at Fort Hood Thursday when an Army troop carrier was swept away at a low water crossing and overturned in a rain-swollen creek. Rescue teams quickly pulled 3 soldiers from the swift water, but 4 are still missing.
Water can look innocent, it can look harmless, but you can drive into it and be completely swept away.
With more than half of the state under flood watches or warnings, the scary scene plays out here in Granbury after more than 3 inches of rain fell in a few hours overnight. You can hear the cries of people watching in horror.
Get out! Get out! Get out!
And the deadly summer rains aren't just flooding parts of the U.S. There is major flooding in Europe, especially France and Germany. The death toll has risen to at least 6 in Paris, and authorities say 2 people have died and 200 have been evacuated in eastern Romania. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Thanks, Ephraim. A smuggling network has guided dozens of illegal immigrants out of Middle Eastern terror hotspots and into the U.S. The Washington Times reports Pakistanis, Afghans, and Palestinians have snuck into the U.S. through the Mexican border. One Afghan man who was caught has ties to the Taliban and was part of a terror plot against the U.S. Border Patrol agents say their database did not flag him at first, and they only uncovered his terror ties after checking with the FBI. The suspect came in with a group of 5 others from Pakistan who were all released on asylum claims and have since disappeared. Startling new video exposes a U.S. college professor promoting the benefits of Sharia law. This video comes to us from a group called the United West. It shows Florida Atlantic University professor Bassam al-Halabi saying he supports cutting off hands as an appropriate punishment for stealing. At a panel on Islamophobia last month, the professor said Sharia law is needed to shut down organized crime. Then he gave the following example.
If it takes 1 or 2 people to have their hands cut off and then there's no more stealing in the whole nation, that's a much better resolution than having hundreds of people die every day.
What? Wow. What? Are you kidding me? What?
A mosque official on the panel tried to correct the statement, saying al-Halabi was referring to Sharia law overseas, not in the U.S. The Clarion Project reports that the professor is also seen in a previous video supporting so-called blasphemy laws that outlaw criticizing Islam. Those laws are often used as a means to attack Christians and other religious minorities in Islamic countries. Al-Halabi teaches computer science and engineering at Florida Atlantic University. Well, President Obama says the Bible supports his recent sweeping directive ordering public schools to let transgender students use the bathroom of their choice. The president made the remark at a town hall meeting in Elkhart, Indiana. On the PBS NewsHour, Mr. Obama said he believes he's following Jesus' command to treat others the way he'd want to be treated.
My reading of Scripture tells me that that golden rule is pretty high up there in terms of my Christian belief.
The president said he wants to make sure children are treated with kindness. Gordon, back to you.
Well, that's an interesting interpretation. Here's another thought for you on the golden rule, which is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. What about the women who don't want to use a bathroom with a man? What are you doing to them by these directives? And why are you mandating it instead of having it come through a democratic process? These are very pressing questions in our world today, and it's amazing to me that bathrooms are going to be the #1 issue in our election this year. It's absolutely amazing. All the things that are going on, whether it's Islamic terrorism or the economy or the staggering U.S. debt, these are end of civilization kinds of issues, and we're debating bathrooms.